Yeah, man. So you and I have started a conversation already a little bit on some next steps, and really specifically talking about dessert or pizza with the pastor. You know, whichever way you go with it, something hanging
Yeah.
out with the pastor, and really just wanted to talk through some of how we could best leverage that tool in the life of our church. Some of the things that are like best practices inside of it, things that you're dropping in it as you're doing that, and what next step you're helping people to take out of that sort of a gathering.
Yeah. So we're just really what we're talking about is just being able to utilize what a next step would look like. And remember, you and I have done some coaching before, is that what we want to do is we want to help people take next steps. And so ultimately, we're creating disciples of Christ, but you can't disciple someone if they don't stay around. And so, how do we connect them into the life of the church? So, going through that system, like, okay, they come on Sunday, they get invited, you create that culture of invite, they come on Sunday, and then you get them into some sort of pizza with the pastor or dessert with the pastor or lunch, whatever, get to know you lunch or whatever you want to call it. If this is what you're asking, what do you do in that, and how do you get the wins in that? Is that what you're asking specifically
Yeah,
in that?
yeah, that's the first piece of it, and I think the follow up would be
Yeah.
is what is the next step that I'm angling for after I've gotten them to that.
Okay, yeah. So get them there. That's for sure. You want to get them there, and so I think you've got to be a system of getting there. I always like to create mini databases. So let's say for you're going to do it based on the size of your church every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks or whatever. I wouldn't go much longer than that. You're wanting to collect anybody that's a guest, anybody that stopped by your welcome center. You're wanting to take all of those people and you're targeting them to show up that month, and maybe even the people from the month prior that didn't show up to the other one. So you're just doing everything you can to get people there. There inside there, the formula is fairly simple. Depending on the size of the group. But if it's a group of anywhere from 3 to 10, 3 to 12, it would be something like this. Hey, this is me. This is my wife. We've been at this church for this long. We started the church. We didn't start the church. We took over. We've been here for 5 years. Whatever the story is, that got us to this point. A little bit about us, a little bit about how we got to this point at this church. We're married. We got 3 kids, whatever. And so that's a little bit about us and how we got here. But I'd love for you guys to answer that. And I always think it's great to take a moment to do that. Keep the questions poised in a way that create a positive response. You don't want to poise questions that opens up for negativity. You want to say, so just tell us a little bit about who you are. Tell us how you found the church and what's one positive thing you've enjoyed about the church. One positive thing you've enjoyed about the church. So you're going to, by people saying what they enjoy about the church, it reinforces to other people, like, yeah, I guess I do like the worship. Yeah, you're right. You know what? I do like the children's ministry. They kind of are just in their mind. Now, let's say there's 10 people in there. Everybody just heard 10 positive things about the church. Not, so tell us a little about the church, what you like, what you don't like. I would not do that. What is one positive thing that you've enjoyed about the church? And then, everybody kind of goes around and gets, tells a little bit about themselves, all that stuff. And then you go into a little bit about the church, what you guys believe. Now, you don't. I wouldn't do a long time at a luncheon or a dessert thing. This is a very sort of, here's the 4 basic things we really believe, or whatever. You can go into deep theology on any denomination, but that's not the place for it. It's just kind of like, man, do we believe that? We look at the Bible as our source. We read it, we live it. We believe it's amazing. We believe it speaks to everyday life. We believe in Jesus. We believe in whatever, 4 or 5 things. Just kind of like, you might have that out on a little outline, a little kind of takeaway 1-page outline, but simple. Here's the top, 4, 6 things that we really believe. Then you're going to turn the corner, and then you're going to talk about, hey, and you can say the same thing every time. That's funny. People try to create new things. It's a different group every time. Just say the same thing. And just say, now you're going to turn the corner and you're going to say, hey, now that you're done with that portion, maybe there's a couple questions, whatever. You're here because you like the church. You're here because you're thinking like, hey, maybe this be our church home. And we firmly believe in next steps. And then you can do a little thing like, hey, we believe in next steps. So, hey, you get engaged and you get married, you get a permit, then you get a license, you go to high school, then you go to college, whatever. Life's all about next steps. And I feel as the pastor, I'm speaking like I'm you, I feel as the pastor, hey, one of the great next steps you could take is just considering where you might be able to get involved for a little bit. And at that point, you can pull out a card if you want. And I would be pushing. Now, here's the thing. I would be moving people to a place of either groups, if you have them, or serving opportunities. That is not to say baptism is not important. That's not to say other things are not important. What I want to do in that moment, the priority, not to say you can't mention them or whatever, but the priority is you want to get them in something. Baptism is you go and you get baptized, and that's great. We want that. But they don't have to build relationships there. They don't have to keep showing up every month for that. But if they sign up to be a greeter, they get to know some of the other greeters. Maybe they go out to lunch with them one time. Relationship starts being built. They're doing it twice a month. There's responsibility. There's relationship. That's what you want to put them to. The thing I always say, Charles, is that people come for the message. They stay for the relationship. And if you can move people into relationships, so here's the card, here's a name, email, cell phone number, and make it easy too. Like here's 10 areas that you might consider taking a next step with and just becoming part of the church family. Now, and I'm speaking like I'm you, let me straight up tell you, I encourage you to try something. Just try something. And after a month or two, if you don't like it, don't do it anymore. And people think, man, Chris, you're calling them to a low commitment. Once they get in, they're fine. Just make the on-ramp as short as possible. Try it out for a month or two. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But we sure would love for you to try out something. Now, but no matter what, please fill out this card and turn it back into me. Then you are going to grab those cards. And so the point is they're going to have to fill it out no matter what, because we just want to make sure we have your updated information. So no matter what, fill out the card, that top portion on details about you. And then the bottom portion is if they want to help out somewhere. So the win, the WIN, the win is you're looking for 70 to 80% of the people that come to that event, pizza, whatever it is, 70, 80% of them take a next step. Now, you didn't ask this, but let me tell you when the real problem shows up. It's that to me is not easy, but easier part. So let's say you did it Sunday after church. All right, just hang out. We're going to have dessert. We're going to have pizza, whatever. Monday, Tuesday, when you call them and who's calling them, is it the department lead? What if that department lead or the greeters doesn't call them for 8 more days because they got busy at work? Then this person never got that call. Like that window, a 48-hour window is the crucial window. So I would make sure to say in the next step, hey, you're going to get a call in the next 48 hours or email or whatever. Can you please respond to it? You're telling the lunch group, sometime in the next 40 hours, you're going to call, email, whatever you decide to do. Make sure that you respond to it. So they'll feel a little more like, hey, it would just save us from having to call you. We don't want to nag you, and then you don't return our call. Did you get our message? We don't want to go through that, man. We don't want to nag you. So if you could just return the call, answer the email, that would be really great. You make sure to say that to them, because then they'll feel like, the pastor asked us to do it, and we all nodded our head. And then but then you got to make sure that by that Tuesday night that the call or email was sent. That post the event is the real crucial time. So did that answer everything for you?
Yeah, I think it's good. Do you have any preference? I know you mentioned both groups and serving. Do you have a preference of one over the other, or do you like pushing both, or just one of those two in that moment?
I push both. I would push both, and just say, hey, you might want to sign up for both. Groups, you're going to get a Bible study. You're going to get like a growing time. Serving, it just might be like, hey, that's just a little easier step for us. You might want to do one. You might want to do both. I just want them to take a step somewhere, because I know what's going to happen. If they get in serving, they'll ultimately get in groups. If they get in groups, they'll ultimately get in serving. So, yeah, I push both. And I would say I wouldn't say all the time, but I'd say the most of the churches we've worked with at Church Boom over the years, the pastors would say, yeah, serving tends to take the lead. Greeter, that sounds easy, kind of takes the lead. But ultimately they end up in a group because they're greeting with 10 other people that are in a group. And then they're going to get invited to that group and they're going to get invited to lunch. That's the whole point, is they're going to get invited in. Once they get invited into relationship, they stay. That's what makes you, Charles, a sticky church, because you get people plugged in and now they feel like, well, now we're in. And that's the big thing here is you're focusing on the activity that gets you the result. The result is we want to grow a church, we want to develop, whatever. But the activity is get people engaged, get people involved. The activity will lead to the result.
Yeah, I think that's a